He's 31 years old, still splitting rent with a roommate he found on Craigslist back in 2016. 4 different browser tabs open right now with online courses he signed up for and never finished. A gym membership he swipes maybe twice a month, mostly out of guilt. And somewhere in the back of his mind there's another version of him. A more finished, more successful man who's already made it, who just hasn't shown up to collect the life yet. If any part of that description made you wince a little, stay with me. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're caught a very specific psychological pattern, and it actually has a name. Carl Jung called it Puer Aeternus, Latin for eternal boy. It's the part of the male psyche that refuses to fully land in adulthood, that keeps circling the runway instead of finally landing. Before we go further, I want to make something clear. This isn't about intelligence, and it isn't about ambition. Some of the sharpest, most creative men you'll ever meet are caught in this exact loop. What actually defines it is closer to an allergic reaction to commitment. Not only romantic commitment, but commitment to a career, a city, a version of yourself you can't take back. Jung used another phrase for this that I think about a lot, the provisional life, meaning you're living like everything is a rough draft. The job is only temporary, obviously, because you're clearly meant for something bigger. The apartment doesn't need decorating because you won't be here long, supposedly, even though you've said that for 5 years running. The relationship is fine, sure, but you keep one eye on the door because, well, what if someone better is out there? It's less a life than a waiting room, and you've been sitting in it so long, you've memorized the magazines. So, where does this actually come from? Because nobody wakes up one morning and decides to become allergic to their own future. You have to go back even further than that. Jungian analyst Marie-Louise von Franz, who worked closely with Jung and wrote the defining work on this exact syndrome, noticed something interesting about the men who fall into this pattern. A striking number of them were considered gifted as kids. The fast learner, the one teachers pulled aside to say, "You could really do something." That kind of praise feels good going down, but it plants a strange belief underneath it that your worth is tied to potential rather than output. And potential is a currency that only holds its value for as long as you never actually spend it. Then adulthood happens, and adulthood doesn't grade on potential. It rewards what you deliver. You take a real job, and you're mediocre at first because everyone is. You get rejected. You watch guys with half your talent outpace you simply because they kept showing up on the boring days. For someone who has built his entire identity around being the exception, that hits differently. It feels less like disappointment and more like a threat to the whole self-image. So, the mind does what minds do when they're threatened. It protects itself. This is where procrastination stops looking like laziness and starts looking like armor. If you never fully commit, you never have to fully find out. And the fantasy gets to stay alive, the one where if you had actually applied yourself, you'd have crushed it. Delaying the job application, delaying the manuscript, delaying the hard conversation. Every delay is a small, quiet trade. You give up a real shot at success in exchange for the guaranteed comfort of unproven potential. There's actual research behind why this stretch of life feels so slippery in the first place. Psychologist Jeffrey Arnett published a theory in the year 2000 in the journal American Psychologist, describing a developmental stage he named emerging adulthood, roughly the late teens through the 20s, sometimes later. Arnett's work described this period as genuinely unstable by design. Identity still forming, living situations shifting constantly. People reporting that they feel caught somewhere between adolescence and full adulthood, not quite either one. His point wasn't that this stage is some kind of character flaw. It's that modern life has stretched this window out longer than it used to be, for pretty ordinary economic and social reasons. His research also showed that, in the end, most people do move beyond it. The eternal boy is what happens when someone gets stuck in that window instead of passing through it. So, what does getting stuck actually look like day to day? Usually it's quieter than people expect. Maybe it's the phone doom scrolling at midnight that started as just 5 minutes and somehow ate 3 hours. Or a relationship where you catch yourself cataloging your partner's flaws right when things start feeling permanent, as if finding a flaw gives you an exit you can use later. And there's often a running list somewhere in your head of reasons your boss or the economy or your parents made this harder than it should have been. Some of which might even be true, and none of which change what you actually do on Monday morning. That last one deserves a second look because it's the sneakiest of the bunch. Blaming your circumstances feels like clarity. It feels like you finally named the real enemy. But circumstances being real doesn't make them the whole story, and treating them like the whole story is just another more socially acceptable way of not showing up. So what actually breaks the cycle? Not a montage, not some single morning where you wake up and suddenly want to do your taxes. The first shift has to happen in how you define growing up. Somewhere along the way, a lot of men start treating responsibility as the opposite of freedom. Like the day you commit to a job, a partner, a mortgage is the day the interesting version of you quietly dies. It's actually the reverse. A talent with no structure around it just evaporates over time. The man with a great business idea and zero discipline for managing money doesn't have a business. He has a thought he enjoys thinking. Commitment isn't the cage, it's the scaffolding that lets whatever is inside you take an actual shape in the actual world. From there, it gets almost embarrassingly simple, though not easy. Do the boring task with background noise to numb it. Clean the room. Pay the bill on the day it's due, not 3 reminders later. And go looking for the specific failure you've been avoiding on purpose. Send the application to the company you're sure won't want you. Sign up for the class where, for a while, you'll be the least capable person in the room. Every time you survive a small real failure instead of an imagined one, the fear underneath this whole pattern loses a little more of its grip on you. And find someone who won't let you negotiate your way out of it. Left alone, the same mind that built this pattern is extremely good at generating reasonable-sounding excuses. That's basically its full-time job. A mentor, a demanding boss, a friend who calls things what they actually are, can do the thing your own willpower can't do at 3 o'clock in the morning when the bed is warm and the deadline still feels far away. So, that guy from the beginning, 31, temporary roommate, 4 unfinished courses, a better version of himself waiting somewhere just out of frame. He's not a lost cause, he's just been mistaken waiting for safety. And the uncomfortable, oddly freeing truth is that the version of you who has it all figured out was never going to arrive on his own. You were always going to have to go and build him, badly at first, on some ordinary Wednesday with nobody watching. If you saw yourself somewhere in this, that's not an insult. That's just the start of paying attention. One last thing, you'll find a reading list in the description below. It includes some of the books and sources that inspired the ideas in this video. If you'd like to explore these concepts more deeply and better understand the psychology behind them, I highly recommend checking them out. One of them might give you the perspective you need to take your first real step toward lasting change. I'm not saying goodbye, I'm just saying, until next time, see you in the next video.